Hello, my name is DFlow, and welcome to Flowboards. Today I'm going to be showing off the Phantom by Maker. After experimenting with several pre-builts, I decided that I wanted to get something much nicer and more quality feeling. Now, I'm opening this from a KBD Fans box, but that's just because I didn't have the original packaging, so we're kind of getting this secondhand experience. Inside the box we have the USB daughter board, 2 plates, one made of POM and one made of FR4. We're going to be using POM for this build for the flexibility. Of course we have the PCB. These are south-facing switches with no RGB. We got this nice E-black aluminum case. This is a round 2, so there's some scratches and blemishes. And of course, we have the O-ring gasket. This build is effectively a friction fit O-ring gasket mount board. So there's very few screws going on here. The only screws that we need are the screws for the daughter board and of course the screws for the PCB mounted stabilizers. Here we get a better look of the POM and FR4 plates. But we're just going to leave that FR4 plate off to the side. We won't be needing it for this build. So first things first, let's get that daughter board screwed in. I'm going to be busting out my trusty WOW stick. I know it's kind of a meme in the keyboard community, but this thing really does work. And yeah, I kind of struggled a lot with that USB daughter board, but once I got the screws in, we don't have to worry about that anymore. We're going to be using Durock V2 Stabilizers for this build. And I've already band-aid modded with Krytox 205 grade 0 and dielectric grease. So after snapping them in, I just flip the board over and screw them into place. Voila! Next up we're going to be placing the POM plate onto the PCB. And for this build I'm going to be using the black edition of the Boba U4Ts. This was a limited run so you can't really get these anymore, but I really hope they come back. And here's some magic. Now a thing to keep in mind when putting switches into this plate is that this plate has a lot of flex, so you got to make sure to keep it stiff so it doesn't bend while you're putting it in. So after plugging in the JST connector, we're almost there and ready to complete this build. Here's our trusty O-ring. We're just going to wrap this around all 4 corners. Make sure it sits between the gap of the PCB and plate. You may notice there's some parts where the O-rings tends to stick out. This is the issue with using screw-in stabilizers for the backspace key. I've heard people recommend using a clip-in stabilizer for the backspace key, but I don't have any on hand at the moment, so we're just going to be using this and trying our best to snugly fit it in. But as you can see, this plate has a lot of nice flex and bounciness. For this build we're going to be using the GMK Red Samurai. It's the only GMK keycap set that I own, but they're really nice and they're really high quality. And of course, the Shark Artisan. I got this Artisan made custom from Ungodly Design. It's made of full aluminum, and as you can see, this board has quite a bit of flex, which results in a really nice bouncy typing feel. Alright, now let's hear what it sounds like in stock configuration. So that was a pretty nice sounding keyboard. However, I have some issues with it sounding a little bit hollow And that's just because we don't have any sound dampening whatsoever. So I'm just gonna go ahead and disassemble this keyboard. And to be quite honest, this is kind of a pain to disassemble. You kind of have to use this little cutout to kind of pull out the plate. But oftentimes the switches don't keep the plate and the PCB intact, and you gotta kind of get your fingers in there to remove the PCB as well. Otherwise the entire thing will just fall apart. So yeah, kind of a pain. So the first modification we're going to be doing is on the PCB itself. So let's just get all these keycaps and switches off this. I'm going to be using PE foam on the PCB. This is most famously known as the Jelly Epoch mod, and it really gives a nice marbly feeling. If you want to see a full guide on it, I'll leave a video in the video description. I also included some of this pre-trimmed Swag Keys Poron plate foam that we'll be using as well, to kind of just get the optimal acoustics for this board. Keep in mind you could also find pre-cut foam from Stupid Fish specifically for this board. Let's just get all those switches on. I'm sure you guys don't want to be seeing me put in switches every single time anyways. Up next we're going to be using some vinyl shelf liner that I have pre-cut. This stuff is really nice for dampening sound, but being very, very thin so it doesn't interfere with any of the bounciness. And of course I also have this one with a hole so that I can feed it right through to sit right on top of the daughter board. This should eliminate a lot of the hollow sound with the board. Originally I tried using a paper towel, but somebody on the Discord had recommended that I try shelf liner, and it really works. And last but not least, I'm going to be trying out the Tempest tape mod. Now this is my first time trying this tape mod, so I'm not necessarily sure how it's going to affect the sound, but I'm very hopeful. So yeah, I kind of had a hard time getting this tape on. This masking tape really didn't want to stick, so I kind of had to double layer it, and it was overall just a big pain. It really shouldn't have been. Also, when you're doing this mod, make sure to cut out the little holes for the gasket mount contact points. Alright, after getting this O-ring back on, we're pretty much ready to friction fit this. Just gotta be careful with all that tape because it's really not sticking on there. Boom. There we go. Now we're all set.